So good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us here. My name is Dave Eberly, and I'm the Church and Community Relations Manager here at Lutheran Family and Children's Services. And I'm here today because we wanted to put together a mental health resource, something that LFCS can share with you to help with some of the impact of what's been going on with COVID-19 and all the stressors and strains and uncertainty that's occurring with it. We're having many services that we can share and can hope to help people with, but we wanted to also take the time to go a little bit deeper on what you can do at home and why this is so impactful. So we have reached out to a special guest of ours. We're taking one of LFCS's own. Mrs. Anna Denney is joining us here today, so thank you very much, Anna.
And
Hi, you're very welcome. A little bit about Anna is she has 7 years of trauma-focused studies. And trauma is going to be the main theme of what we're going to talk about today. She is a licensed master social worker and is our trauma care coordinator here at LFCS. And how we've put this together is that initially we have reached out to many of our supporters and asked, what are some of the things you're struggling with? And the questions have kind of been all over the place. And most people had said, we don't really know what to ask because there's so much. And from talking with our experts, we have found that, I believe trauma is going to be the main source of how we can begin to help and how we can begin to define what's going on. So we've asked Anna to come here to answer a few questions, to talk with us about what trauma is, how it's impacting us, but most importantly, what we want to try to spend a good chunk of our time on today is what can we do? How can we take the information given and try to use it in a way that's therapeutic, helpful, and can prepare us for other changes and uncertainty that's going to be coming in the weeks and months ahead. So to start, Anna, why don't we go ahead and just kind of set the table? Can you give us, for those who aren't familiar, a definition of what trauma is?
Yeah, so trauma is, I'm going to start out by saying, less about the thing that happened and more about your response to the thing that happened. So it's generally accepted that a trauma is something it stems from an experience that was stressful or scary that you felt out of control in. And then you have some physical, emotional, and mental symptoms from that experience. So it's less about what it was and more about how you are impacted by the thing.
So with that impact, what are different ways that people are impacted by a traumatic event?
So there are quite a few ways that people are impacted by trauma. Some of the physical things that people might experience are increased headaches. You might feel a churning in your stomach. You could have some chest pain or chest tightness, which goes along with that anxiety. You may find that your sleep patterns are changing. So you might just want to sleep all the time, or maybe you wake up at night and you're not able to sleep, or you're not able to fall asleep. We see a lot of racing thoughts, which would contribute to the issues with sleeping. You might have flashbacks. There may be certain sounds or smells, places, people that trigger some of that memory for you and kind of take you back to that place that was scary and you were out of control. We also see some issues with being able to think clearly or remember things. If you feel like you just can't remember what's going on, or, normally you're really, really good at remembering all the things you need to do. And right now you're just not able to do that anymore. That could be because you're suffering with some trauma.
So after you're talking about the different effects short term, you talked about the physical and the mental effects. What are some of the long-term effects if you don't try to handle these things now, or your typical guy fashion, stereotypically I should say, when you just, work through it, you don't have to worry about it. We'll be fine, pull yourself up, whatever you have to do. Talk a little bit about the long-term effects of unaddressed trauma if you can.
Okay, perfect. Yes. So we are all well aware of that culture of just move forward and move on and get over it, right? And trauma, unfortunately, is not something that is simply gotten over. You need to do some work on that. So some of the impacts that you're going to see if you don't address this are that you're going to have increased emotional instability. So you might have anger issues that are kind of out of control and you feel like you're not yourself, and that can impact your relationships. It can impact your job, all of those things. If you imagine, I talked about not getting sleep and um, having a hard time remembering things, and we have all that emotion stuff going on. And the longer that those things are occurring, the more that's going to impact your physical health. And you can't just stuff it in. So you're going to find ways to cope with that. And those things might be unhealthy things. So substance use could be turning to alcohol a little bit more. And I've heard that so many times online
Yeah.
lately. I'm drinking more. I'm going to the liquor store more. And
Delivery margaritas. Yeah, we can take advantage of that.
exactly. And I mean, I'm not saying, don't ever drink any alcohol ever, right? That's not what we're saying. But it's really easy to fall down that path of, well, this is making me feel better. And we know that alcohol is damaging to your body. We know that other substances are damaging. So you can see increased substance abuse. One thing that we have seen a lot of, and this was kind of discovered in a study done in 1997, which was like a billion years ago, right? It feels like it wasn't really. But they found that when children, especially, so children that have experienced trauma, be under the age of 18, have long-term health effects from trauma that was not worked on and resolved. So we see diabetes, we see heart disease, we see increased prevalence of cancer, we see the substance abuse, we see depression, anxiety. There's a huge toll on our economy because it costs lots of money to take care of these issues. And then also people, increase disabilities because if you aren't able to work because of all of your health concerns, um, then you don't have money coming in, and you need to get a lot of assistance, and you have to spend lots of time at the doctor's office and all of those things. So trauma is not just a mental health issue.
Yeah.
This is an issue that spans across all of our society and has a huge impact economically, in our communities, in our families, personally. And so not addressing that is not uh, going to help you. I like to think of like eat an apple a day to keep the doctor away kind of a thing. Like
Mhm.
if we're figuring out how to heal from this stuff and learning those healthy coping skills, not stuffing it down and saying, whatever, I just need to get over it. Um, we will see a lot longer good health. There will be a lot better prognosis in the future if we're actually addressing these things.
Yeah, it's that progress of just slowly chipping away, building good habits, compounding upon themselves, and can just lead to a better outcome in multiple aspects of our mind and body. So, the one question I came up in a conversation with somebody a week ago was trying to identify of, yeah, things are tough, but I don't know if I'd call this traumatic. They were talking about how other people have lost jobs or they have financial insecurity, but they seem to be okay. How can people who are just staying at home right now, who might be in a decent place, how do they determine whether what they're experiencing is traumatic or not to them?
And I've heard that a lot too. And I must say that, a lot of people are like, I mean, yeah, it's stressful, but I'm not like traumatized,
Yeah,
right? So there are definitely some more serious things that could be signs of trauma. And there's traumatic stress, and then there's trauma, right? And then there's stress. And if you're not addressing some of those smaller stressful things, I think we can all say that this has been an increased stressful time, even if
yeah,
we're not traumatized, right?
sure.
But we still need to be addressing that stuff. So there's still that grief and that loss that comes with what's going on, whether you feel like it's been a trauma or not. That's debatable, right? Everybody's different, but you still need to be working on addressing that so that it doesn't become a trauma, building those resiliencies. But some signs that maybe you need to look a little deeper at this and maybe get some professional help would be, it's been 6 weeks and you still are feeling like, oh, I am not who I normally am. I'm not getting the sleep I need. I'm not okay. Like I'm not moving past this. If you're just not functioning well, if it seems like everything's falling apart and everything's going crazy, maybe that's a sign that going and seeing a counselor, somebody that can really help you, would be needed. If you're experiencing flashbacks or nightmares, if you're feeling triggered by things, I know that's like a buzzword, triggered, I'm triggered.
Yeah,
right.
It's your social media tag right there.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, really triggered, where it's like you get into that fight, flight, or freeze where you can't do anything, or you feel like you're lashing out, or you are really avoiding things. So it's impacting how you're functioning in your daily life. If you just really can't connect with people, you're avoiding the people that you love, the people that you normally would want to be around, some of those avoidant behaviors, it's like, this isn't the norm for me. And it's been going on for a while. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a sign that we need to do something about that. Obviously, if you are having any thoughts of suicide, if you're starting to feel helpless and hopeless and like it would be better if I just wasn't around. And then, like I said, avoiding things. If you're just avoiding things more and more and it's like, I'm just not going to think about it, it'll disappear. And that's kind of your go-to now.
Sure.
Those are some signs that maybe there's something a little bit more going on here.
So I guess I would open it up to start with you with what are some of your suggestions as to how we can begin to help ourselves and maybe even help others during these traumatic experiences that we're feeling?
Definitely. So I think, the first thing that I like to tell people is to kind of change your perspective a little bit. It's not only for yourself, but for other people. And I like to use this analogy of filling a bucket full. So if you think of this coronavirus and the impact it's had on our lives as, there's this bucket that keeps getting filled with balls. And it doesn't matter what the balls are, but it gets full and then it starts exploding. And that knowing that, you have this bucket that's filling, and then there comes a point when you can't cope anymore, and you know that maybe that's you, and you know that that's maybe the people that you love, you can give grace a little bit, and you can say, you know what, this is a really hard time. And they're not doing this because they hate me or they want to make my life miserable. Maybe they're just not coping well. And same with yourself. It's not that I am crazy and that I'm not doing a good job and that I'm just this horrible person or whatever it is, because when you start feeling the symptoms of trauma, you feel kind of crazy. It's like, what is wrong with me? So changing your perspective and knowing, okay, there's something going on here. And maybe that's that awareness, having that awareness that like, I have these feelings, they're here, and accepting those feelings and keeping them. So that okay, here's where I'm at. I'm going to do something about it instead of pushing it aside or saying I should be better. So that's the first.
Okay.
Change that perspective for sure. You also want to, as hard as it is, get into a good routine. So our entire society has been thrown into chaos, right?
Yep.
Down to the very, very basic level of the family. So find a routine. It may not be the routine that you have had all along because you're home now, your kids are home now. You can't go eat at the restaurant, can't go to the movies. I mean, those things are starting to change a little bit, right? You've still got all of that social distancing and it's not looking the same. So you won't be the way that you were before, but you can create new routines. You can go to sleep and wake up at the same time. You can eat regular meals. You can go on that walk and have that break every day.
So why are routines so important? What is it about a routine that is healthy for people moving forward?
So if you think about that original definition of that trauma, where it's not about the what it's about how it's impacted you and that you were out of control. You did
Hmm.
not have control over the situation. So when you create routines, whatever they may be, it's your way of having control, a little bit of control. So it's about, okay, what can I control? What can I not control? I cannot control coronavirus. I would love it if I could control coronavirus.
Right.
I don't have that expertise. I don't think anybody has that expertise. But I can control when I go to sleep, when I eat, what I eat, when I go exercising or walking, if I'm spending time with my family. So, creating those routines gives us a sense of control in a situation where we may not have a lot of control. So, that's why it's important.
Okay. Perfect. What can we do? So I'm a parent of two kids. How do we monitor and try to work with the younger kids, throughout the age ranges, to try to make sure that they have what they need to cope with whatever stress they might be experiencing?
So I love talking about this because it's so, so, so important. So important. A big, big thing to help little kids and adults, because sometimes we just aren't this great at this either, is talking about emotions and identifying emotions so that you have some social emotional competence. So that, if you see that your toddler is out of control and they're just freaking out and they're angry, name that emotion for them. It's like, wow, you look like you're feeling really, really angry about this. And then they're like, oh, I'm feeling angry. And you can talk about, well, what does it look like to be angry? It looks like, your face is getting a little red, or I see your hands, they're starting to clench, or you're starting to stomp your feet. So they know, okay, I've identified that I'm feeling angry. One,
Yeah.
this is what it feels like and looks like to be angry. Two. So then when they start to feel those things in their body again, they can say, oh, I know what this is. I'm starting to feel angry. And then important follow up, because you want that competence. You know what? Let's try to do some breathing, or let's go for a little walk, or how about we cuddle here on the couch? So you are also helping them with learning how to effectively cope and bring themselves down from that emotion. So those are the three big components to kind of figuring this stuff out and being able to manage ourselves and kind of come down, because you want to know what the emotion is, you want to know what it looks like and feels like in your body, and then you want to know how to in a healthy way come down off of that and be okay.
Sure.
So that's how you can help your little kids and really connect too, because you want to have that empathy. So if your toddler is like, I want a popsicle, and you're like, well, you already had 5 popsicles today, you can't have another popsicle.
Yeah.
But you can show empathy and say, wow, I know, I get it. You really want a popsicle. It looks like you're feeling pretty angry about that. You can be firm and you can say, you can't have a popsicle right now, but how about we sit and read a book together? Or maybe we can have a popsicle tomorrow, or whatever. So you want to have that connection piece as well.
Sure. Now, what about parents with the older kids, the preteen to teenage, where there's already struggles put in place, and maybe you're struggling with the communication in general? What steps can you take to try to at least care for any extra stress that they might be experiencing, or figure out if they're struggling with the pandemic in any fashion?
Yeah, so that age range is notorious for not really communicating well, right?
Right. Right.
And they think their parents are stupid. So like there's already some barriers there. But I would say that just like with us in creating routine, and why it's important to have some sense of control, really be creative about the ways that you can give control to that age range of kids.
Mm.
And that goes for all age ranges. We want to be in control. We don't want to be told what to do all the time where we don't get any say, right? That's
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Frustrating. It's especially frustrating for that age range because one of the developmental goals of adolescence is that you individualize from your parents and you start making your own decisions so that you can be a healthy, functioning adult. And if you don't have any friends, which friends are supremely important during that time when you can't contact your friends, you've got all this work that you're doing, your parents are stressed out, so they're probably down your throat a little bit more than they normally are, right?
Sure.
So giving control where control can happen is really important for kids that age so that they feel like they have a say in things. And it's important when you're recovering from a trauma to feel like the locus of control is within yourself. Like you have some control over how the world is around you. Not all control, that's not realistic, but that you do have something you can do. And then also just letting your kids know, like, it's okay. It's okay if you feel like you can't do all of this. Let's take a mental health break. It's okay if you can't do this assignment right now, or you need to take a break, or let's go for a walk, and they may not talk to you very much.
Sure.
But you're letting them know that it is okay how they're feeling. Normalize some of those emotions. And you can even make this a connection like, you know what, I've been having a hard time too with working at home and figuring out all this technology. And it's frustrating when it doesn't work and it feels like it's too much right now. So let's take a break. Let's make some popcorn and watch a movie, or let's order some pizza, or let's go for a walk, or what do you want to do? What would you like to do? And then coming up with creative ways for them to communicate with their friends, because that is really important for kids to have peer contact. Really important, like vital for their development.
So, what I'm hearing about all of this is that the relationships we have in our lives are probably the best asset for coping with trauma. Would that be accurate?
Oh, yes.
Can
Yes. 100% yes.
can you elaborate a little bit further as to why that is the case, and why those relationships are so impactful moving forward?
So if you think of when you're just a little baby and you're helpless, I mean, we probably don't remember this time, but we know babies, so we know that they're helpless. They completely rely on the adults in their lives to take care of them. And that is where you learn about the safety or not safety of the world. You feel if the world is safe or unsafe from those adults in your life and from that connection and that attachment. And the fact of the matter is that we are social creatures. We need other people. We need that connection. If you think about how hard it's been not to talk to people face to face and feed off that energy between people and give hugs and handshakes and whatever else it may be, we are built for that. And if we have good connections where we feel safe, we feel loved, we feel okay, then the world feels okay. And so it makes it easier to deal with all of that stuff that's outside because you've got like this safe bubble, this safety net of I've got these people to turn to, I've got these people that support me, I've got these people that love me, and we're like, okay, we're going to be okay.
So, kind of jumping around a little bit, but I know you talked a little bit before about when your younger kids practicing breathing techniques, or practicing that concept of just labeling, identifying those things. I know it seems very simple. It seems very like basic. Well, yeah, anyone can breathe. Anyone can do that stuff. Anyone can identify what it is. Um, can you explain why that's important, or what does it do for us to help cope with these situations?
So it helps us regroup when we're doing that deep breathing. If you take a deep breath in through your mouth and out through your, no, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Opposite. In through your nose and out through your mouth, and you just let everything wash away. It's really hard to stay angry, and you start to feel your nervous system is calming, right? You feel like you're kind of okay, I'm okay. It gives your brain time to start processing, because when you are in a high emotional state, you're going to be in the part of your brain that's called the amygdala, which is kind of center I can't reach it, can't touch it. It's in the middle, right? So that's where your high emotion is. You can't problem solve. You can't make new memories. You can't do a lot of learning. You're very, very emotional in that place. So breathing helps you get out of there in that amygdala, which is an important place, right? It helps keep you safe, but brings you back up into this prefrontal cortex, which I can touch more because it's in the front, right? So it helps bring you back into that place where you can think and you can problem solve. And I like to say you can start to see the forest through the trees. So instead of just like this tree that's right here that you're like, oh my gosh, there's no way to get around it. And it's the biggest tree I've ever seen in my life. And we're going to die at this tree. You breathe and you bring it back up and it's like, oh, there's another side. Okay, I can see the path. I can get around this tree that seemed so huge and big and insurmountable because I've brought myself back up into this place where I can do that.
Are there any specific resources that you recommend or can talk about, and we can put links on underneath, that you would recommend for either yourself or kids or older adults, things on those ends that would be beneficial for us to look at further?
Yeah, definitely. So we have a video that goes through a very simple breathing technique. It's 3 minutes long that we'll link below. That's really great with telling you how to breathe and kind of the steps to that so that you can do some quick breathing. We also have a grounding video, which grounding is just a way to kind of, once again, get yourself out of the amygdala and back up by focusing on things that are outside. So what does it smell like in the room? What do you see? Really describe, what does the chair feel like? What do your clothes feel like? If you have a piece of chocolate, eat the chocolate and really savor the flavor. So you're bringing yourself out of that emotion place to a thinking place. So really doing that, we can link those two things below. A book that I really, really love for kids. Kids like to have fun and they like to play, right? Like they're all about that. They're all about that play.
Yeah.
And it's important for them. And so there's a book called Breathe Like a Bear, which we'll link to. And we also have a video. So I've been doing a video series every week where I go on Facebook and I read a mental health book. And I read the little kid version of Breathe Like a Bear on there. So we'll link that video below. But also there's a bigger one. So it just gives all these ideas of how to breathe like different animals. And you can be creative about your breathing too.
I like that.
I did hot chocolate breath with my 4-year-old last night. He loves hot chocolate. We did volcano breath because volcanoes are awesome. We can breathe like dinosaurs. So, just coming up with different ways to have fun with kids. And then they don't feel like, oh, mom's making us breathe again. It's like, oh.
I get it, mom. I know how to exhale that out. I'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. So making it fun because they know when you're like, I think you need to go to your room because you need to calm down. They're like, oh, it's a punishment. So making it fun and part of this is what we do. And I do this, you do this. This is how we calm down. This is how we cope. This is our connection. This is how we connect to each other. Those are all really great ways to, bring this back for your kids.
Awesome. So we are just about at time. But on our way out, what would be any closing suggestions, recommendations, things you want people to know as we move forward into this post-pandemic world, as we're starting to have things reopen and transition back into what is going to be ahead next? There's going to be a lot of uncertainty and a lot of apprehension and mixed feelings. So what would be some closing thoughts, recommendations, things you'd throw out there?
So really taking time to connect with the people that you love and care about. Because that connection is...
Uh-oh, you froze. Sorry, you just froze there. I apologize. Can you try that one more time?
No, that's okay. So really taking time to connect, that's going to build that resilience. Find ways to be with the people that you love and care about, whether it's just sending them a quick message or planning a party via Zoom or getting together in real life when we can do that. Spending that quality time, and even spending 5 minutes where you are undivided attention with each of your children every day, or your spouse or friend, is huge. Huge. It doesn't even take that long. You don't have to spend all your time with other people. It's just teeny amount of time where you're really connecting. And then another big thing, as we start opening up, we're still going to be exposed to the media, right? And that can be really damaging for kids and adults when you're trying to move past a trauma and feel like things are okay, because the news is meant to be sensational, right? They want to reel us in, and it's often very stressful things that they're talking about. And so if you find that you are feeling overwhelmed and it's like the world is doomed, we are going to end, take a little break. Take a little break from the media, from news sources. Or if you really feel like you need to get that news, instead of watching it, listen. So don't watch all of the scary things on TV, and kind of insulate yourself from that, or take a little break. So taking a break from all of that input of scary stuff can really go a long way in improving your mental health, in addition to some of those coping skills that we've talked about.
Awesome. Well, again, Anna, thank you so much for being here, for answering these questions. That was fantastic. And I know we'll have a lot of help for people moving forward, and some resources for everyone to go from there. So thank you so much for everything.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Very welcome. And with that, we're going to close out. We'll have links to our phone number if you feel like you want to explore setting up any services moving forward. And if you need help, please contact us. We'll have the information following just this. But we ask you guys would stay healthy, stay safe, and let us know if there's anything else further that we can discuss or do for you. We want to keep this series continuous and moving forward. But thank you very much, guys. Have a good day.